Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, holy shamoli. That's all I have to say. So, here is exactly now what has taken place. Forget the last 24 hours, in the last 12 hours. Apparently now, they have identified the mass shooter who opened fire at Brown University on Saturday, killing 2 students and wounding 9. According now to law enforcement authorities, Boston police in particular and the FBI, they now believe that this man, and I'm going to give his name in a second, is also directly responsible and linked to the murder of the MIT physicist, the fusion scientist who taught at MIT. Remember, that physicist was 47 years old. He was from Portugal. It appears that the suspect in both the Brown and the MIT shootings is Claudio Neves Valenti. He is 48, or was 48 years old. He is from Portugal originally. He came to the United States in 2017 on a diversity visa lottery program. He then eventually got a green card, permanent legal resident. He is actually not a resident of either Rhode Island or Massachusetts or New Hampshire. In fact, he apparently has no connection to New England whatsoever. He is a resident of Miami, Florida. Now, according to law enforcement, this is now the timeline. He arrived in Boston and rented a car with Florida license plates. He then, for about a 12-day period, drove down to Providence, where he was scoping and casing the campus and the university. He had attended the university for a brief period from 2000 to 2001. In other words, basically 24 years ago. He attended the graduate physics program. So I guess he was a wannabe aspiring physicist. They claim that the reason why he targeted the engineering building, they suspect, is because he took his physics classes in that engineering building. They don't believe that he targeted those students specifically, whether it's Ella Cook, the young Republican who was murdered, or the other victim whose parents are from Uzbekistan. They believe he just randomly chose a classroom from the building that he had attended 24 years ago when he took several classes as in the graduate program of physics, the physics graduate program. Apparently, he withdrew from the program. They don't know why, but he took a few classes and then he withdrew and they never heard from him again. As he scoped and cased the university, he then made his move, where he launched the massacre. He then drove back to his hotel, where he then changed the license plates. He also, when he first arrived in Boston, rented a storage unit at an extra space storage facility in Salem, New Hampshire. When he returned back from Providence after the massacre at Brown, he then went to the home of the nuclear physicist, the professor at MIT, who apparently they knew each other. Now, I don't know how well they knew each other, but they went to the same academic program from 1995 to 2000. In fact, they both graduated in Portugal. They both were Portuguese. They graduated from the same academic program in Portugal. In fact, they both graduated in 2000 from the very same institution. He then went to Brookline. We have a big audience outside of Massachusetts. Brookline is very close to Boston. And by the way, very, a swanky area, a very upper middle class. Anyway, so he went in, targeted the professor, shot the professor multiple times, eventually killing him. He then went on the lam. He then drove up to his storage facility and apparently hid there until he eventually ate his own gun. Now, that's what the police told us yesterday. Police, what broke the case wide open, and this is incredible, it's not all the cameras that apparently now don't work at Brown University, and I'm going to get to that. They, in some ways, deliberately don't work, and I'll get to that. It's a homeless person who, and you know how they're very territorial. Homeless people are very, very territorial. They live in a place. This person happens to live at Brown permanently on campus, this homeless guy. And he noticed something very suspicious about Claudio Neves Valenti. And so he began to follow him. And he followed him back to his vehicle. And by following him back to the vehicle, this homeless person was able to make the make and model of the car and even provide them with the license plate. So really, it was a homeless guy that gave the case, that broke the case wide open. So what we have is a 48-year-old man, an immigrant from Portugal who is not a U.S. citizen, who apparently, and they're not giving us a motive, shot up Brown University and then shot and killed the MIT professor and then fled to Salem, New Hampshire to his storage facility. The police in a manhunt were closing in on him, the FBI, Boston PD, the Providence police, and apparently he killed himself before they got on the scene. When they opened up the storage facility, his storage unit, they opened up his storage unit, they found him dead. So, I'm giving you the facts of the entire case. Now, let me just say this, okay? Couple of points, and then I want to throw it open to you, the great audience of Kuhner Country, 617-266-6868. Here's my initial reaction. From the heart. How convenient. Honestly, how convenient. So, you mean to tell me you have a guy come into a classroom, according to multiple witnesses, shout Allahu Akbar, but it turns out he's Portuguese? And this is a non-terrorist attack? It's some guy with some grievance 24 years ago. He left Brown and was disillusioned or disenchanted with their physics program. And then went up and killed the MIT professor, which is 50 miles away? Brookline is about 50 miles away from Providence. And then very conveniently kills himself, so we don't get to interrogate him. We don't get to get more information out of him. Did he have help? Did he do it by himself? We don't, a motive, a reason? It's all just swept under the rug now? I'm sorry, it doesn't pass the smell test. Now, to be fair, if you know anything about Portugal, like any European country, especially Western European, Portugal has a lot of Muslims. They just do. So maybe this man was a Portuguese Muslim. Okay? Maybe. I'm not saying he is, but it's a distinct possibility. Now, let me make another obvious point. This is not from some fringe website. I'm talking, these are wire services. The Reuters, Associated Press, Yahoo News, obviously the New York Times, USA Today, all the papers in Israel, okay, the Washington Post. The Israeli government was on American soil with the FBI, was investigating the murder of that MIT professor. because he was such a prominent nuclear physicist overseeing such a sensitive program. And that the Israelis were becoming convinced that this was a hit, an Iranian hit squad, but led by overseen by the Republic of Iran, to decimate, to retaliate for what happened at Fordow and the destruction of Iran's nuclear program. I'm rarely speechless. I don't know what else to tell you, but so look, I'm very suspicious. Let's just put it this way. This is all so convenient now, so convenient. Let me just make a few other points, and then I really want to go to the phone lines and take the pulse and get the reaction from the best audience in the business. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, according now, and I'm going to play you the cuts, I promise, but I'm just going to lay it out for you. The president of Brown is now under withering pressure. I don't know how this woman still has a job. This is DEI hire all the way. All the way. This woman screams incompetence. They held this press conference yesterday. I don't know if you saw it. What a bunch of losers. Oh my God. They were taking a victory lap. The Brown University professor, the police chief, who I can't understand, who often talks in Spanish. I could go on. The crazy attorney general, the crazy mayor, the governor. Oh my God. So there they are in Providence, and they're all congratulating themselves. I'm not kidding. They're all patting each other on the back. You're great. No, you're great. No. Oh, did we do this? Did we break this wide open? We did it. Fire all of them. Fire all of them. This is frightening. I'm serious. These people actually have power. Christina Paxson is her name. She's now being asked repeatedly, you have over 1,000 cameras on campus. How come it took a homeless guy who followed the shooter, Claudio Neves Valenti apparently, to his car and get the make and model of the car and the license plate? And that's, in other words, you had no cameras functioning at Brown University. Apparently, they disabled many of the cameras on purpose. Why did they disable? You may say, Jeff. What? Apparently, they disabled many of the cameras on campus because they got letters from far left-wing groups, pro-Palestinian groups, anti-ICE groups. We don't want the protesters' faces and identities to be picked up by cameras because this could send them to jail. So please, to protect the identities of these left-wing protesters, could you disable the cameras? And the idiot said yes. You can't make this up. You cannot make this up. You cannot make this up. There's woke, and then there's crazy woke. I mean, really dangerously, recklessly crazy woke. This is it. This is it. So apparently, so that these pro-Palestinian protesters, these raging anti-Semites, well, they were getting arrested at Columbia. They were getting arrested at Harvard. They were getting arrested at MIT. Why? Well, because they were caught on camera. You could see their faces. So what do they do at Brown? Click, disable. There were illegal aliens at some of these anti-ICE protests on campus. So you know what Genius said? Let's click, disable the cameras. Why? This way, illegal aliens won't be arrested. Because you don't have the facial recognition technology just won't work. Click. Just turn the camera off. Two students are dead. 9 students are wounded. An MIT professor is dead. Which begs the question, had the cameras been activated, would they have prevented the shooting and, at a bare minimum, identified him so much quicker on the spot that MIT professor wouldn't be dead today? You want to talk about massive lawsuits. If the victims, the families of the victims are going to sue Brown, and I hope they do, for billions of dollars, that endowment of theirs is going to be gone by the time these lawsuits are done. Now, here's the other big bombshell. Okay? Listen now to this. That's why they were covering all this up. This has been one big, massive cover-up. They're covering up for her, this crazy president. They're covering up for Brown. They're covering up for the Brown police and the local Providence police. Here now is what's been exposed. After Neves Valenti went in, remember, door unlocked, cameras now deactivated, and shot that classroom up. The students were bleeding, yelling, screaming, lying on the ground. Providence and campus police came to the building. Okay, so you have this lunatic president of Brown, okay, President Christina Paxson, who is admitting that they were disabling cameras to protect the identities of left-wing activists and protesters on campus, and apparently now including even illegal aliens at these anti-ICE rallies or protests. So Brown now has blood on their hands. There's no question they have blood on their hands. So they disabled and deactivated many cameras, which could have easily identified this guy now, Claudio Neves Valenti. And instead, he got away. This allowed him to escape because the cameras weren't functioning on campus. And then he went into his car, drove up to Brookline, and then killed that MIT professor. Okay, but it gets worse. So, according now, this is what's coming out. Campus police and Providence police, and these are really the Keystone cops, they were at the engineering building. There's a shooting. People are calling 911. So you could hear it on the radio transmissions. They come up and they're outside the building. And like in Uvalde, if you remember Uvalde, Texas, the police refuse to go in. You've got students bleeding. You've got students screaming. You've got students on the ground, shot, begging for help. And where do we park? I'm not kidding. The police are saying, do we park there? Do we park here? Are we in the right building? I don't think we're in the right building. Is this the right building? I'm not sure we're in the right building. And they refuse to rush in. I don't even want to ask this question. But my God, it needs to be asked. Did any of the 2 students that died, did any of them, could they have been saved if these clowns had gone in earlier? Enough. 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 That president needs to be fired immediately. Immediately. That joke of a police chief. First, the campus police chief. By the way, the campus police chief is a DEI hire. I'm talking Brown said he's a DEI hire. This is a guy who had 2, not 1, 2 votes of non-confidence against him by his own team by his own officers underneath his command, who said, who hired this clown? Then you've got the Providence police chief, the one I can't understand half what comes out of his mouth, the guy they brought in from Columbia. No, I don't mean Columbia as in Columbia University. I mean the country Columbia. This, and then that mayor who just just staring off into space. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. To me, there's going to be lawsuits. There needs to be lawsuits. The police need to be held accountable. Everybody involved who refused to rush into that building, fire their ass. Every single one of them. Brown University must be held accountable for what happened. The mayor has got to go. That state attorney general, the yeller, all he does is scream and try to berate reporters. He's got to go. And that police chief, where they found that police chief, I don't know. Now, the larger point is this. Let's just accept the narrative at face value for now, just for the sake of argument. Why was the shooter? Why was Neves Valenti allowed to enter the United States of America? Why? Seriously, why? Now, Trump, in the wake of what happened, has suspended, Kristi Noem announced this last night, the diversity visa lottery program. Don't just suspend it, abolish it. But the question is, here you have another non-American coming in, a non-citizen, who clearly was not properly vetted. And because of this, you've got 2 dead students, a dead MIT professor, 9 wounded, and this guy apparently dead from self-inflicted gunshot wounds, or one shot wound, at a storage facility in Salem. How much more of this are we going to take? We don't owe the world a visa. We don't owe the world to let all of their nut jobs come into our country. It's time to reassert control over our borders, over our sovereignty, over our immigration system. I've never heard of this, a lottery. I mean, I've heard of it. I know we've had it for many decades, but, a quote-unquote lottery. No. You allow immigrants to come in that you need for certain specific skills and jobs. And you make sure they're not criminals, they're not terrorists, they're not insane, they're not going to shoot up your schools. I don't know, they're not drug dealers. As I told Sandy while we were off air in the last break, this is becoming like a movie. This is like a Hollywood movie. But, like the Keystone Cops. But real life, and in real life, people die. So, let me ask all of you, okay? Let me put my cards on the table and ask all of you this. What do you make of what happened last night? The fact that they found him dead in a storage facility. Apparently, according to the police, if you want, I'll play you the cut, but I'll just, say it. They say that after he Neves Valenti murdered the MIT professor, that's when he drove up. He changed license plate. He put on a main license plate. That's when he drove up to that storage facility and that unit that he rented and apparently shot himself later that day. So apparently he's been dead in that storage unit for a few days now. So anyway, let me ask you, what do you believe the official story? Do you believe Neves Valenti was the actual shooter? Do you believe the 2 murders or the 2 shootings, the 2 shootings were linked and tied? Both what happened at Brown and at MIT. What do you think the motive is? Did he act alone? Or do you believe we're being lied to? Does this reek and smell of another cover-up to you? 617-266-6868. And the larger question, why was he allowed to come into our country? And maybe even the larger question to that, Brown University. Does Brown have blood on their hands? I say yes. What say you? 617-266-6868. John in Malden. You're going to kick us off, John. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Hey, how's it going, Jeff?
I'm good. How are you, John?
Wife, kids. Good, not bad. Happy New Year, too. And
Merry Christmas. All the best to you and your family, John. John, what do you make of everything that happened last night?
Me, I think it was a setup. I think the way it sounds, this was set up for a hit for that MIT professor for some reason or another. And to me, what else did they find storage bins in that storage area? You know, did they find anything else? Any other guns or anything else? Or any other clues? I don't know. To me, it's just something stinks still. It really does. Another thing too, Jeff. It's funny because when they were announcing it and everything, and they're patting themselves on the back, it was like watching a movie. You know, it's like, oh yeah, you know. It just cracks me up about it, you know. But to me, I think this was a hit, and the way everything went down for finding this guy, if it is true, if it was him, which who knows.
Well, that's the thing. So much of this just doesn't add up. Okay, it's all coming out now, and this is going to be incredibly damaging to Brown. My prediction: they are going to lose a ton of money. You're going to see some massive lawsuits. So just so that you know, because many of you are emailing me, texting me, Jeff, could you give us just a little more information about these police officers that apparently were staged outside the building? They were there, but they didn't move in. They didn't rush in. Well, apparently on radio transmissions now, it was caught, there were officers. The shooting takes place. People are calling 911. There's pandemonium. And the officers, both Providence Police and Campus, Brown University Police, showed up. And it was like a bad improv skit. You can't make it up. Some of them are saying, we can't find parking. Where do we park? Now, remember, you've got people, dead or dying, bleeding, screaming, yelling. They're on the floor. There's blood everywhere. Shots just rang out. Literally one cop says, I need a day off. I'm feeling burnt out. I don't need this. I need a day off. I'm not kidding. Are we in the right building? Was it at a different building? Are you sure this is the building? I don't think it's the building. And nobody had the courage or the professionalism to actually rush in. Which begs the question, and it's obvious, had they rushed in, could they have caught the shooter? Could they have seen the shooter? Could they have tracked the shooter? Could they have maybe followed the shooter? Their utter incompetence and failure, their cowardice, their inability and refusal to act, let the shooter escape. And we know what happened after he escaped. He drove 50 miles to Brookline, outside of Boston, and murdered, in cold blood, allegedly, an MIT professor. They've got blood on their hands, number one. Number two, if I'm a parent sending my children to that school, my kids to that school, my kids out. You're never going to Brown again. And this president, this joke of a president of Brown, Christina Paxson, she's taking victory laps last night? And the Providence police chief is high-fiving everybody? Like, I don't know what, like they just pulled off the greatest police sting operation in history. I don't know what to tell you. Honestly, I don't know what to tell you. All kidding aside, this is like having Bill in Sudbury be the head of police. This is like Bill in Sudbury giving him the keys to Brown. You know, like, here, you're going to be the president of the university. Go, Bill. Disable the cameras. We don't want protesters to get arrested. Oh. If I'm Ella Cook's parents, if I'm the parents of that poor Uzbek American, Morkadov, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. If I'm mangling it, forgive me. By the way, apparently he was a brilliant student. He was the first student in his entire family to go to college. Never mind go to a prestigious Ivy League school. He was going to be a neurosurgeon. They said his IQ was off the charts, and that he was so determined for him, his family, to really make something of himself, that they said this poor kid, all he did was eat and study, eat and study, eat and study. Eat, sleep, study, eat, sleep, study. And he ends up dead. And these idiots are high-fiving themselves and patting themselves on the back? What I saw last night, it was grotesque. It was disgusting. It was stomach-turning. Agree, disagree. Now, just very quick, I promise I'm going to go to the phones. In contrast, there was the Boston press conference. And by the way, law enforcement is now admitting this. In a way, and please, I don't want this to come out the wrong way. I am so sorry. I feel so bad for that MIT professor. As I said, I believe Brown has blood on their hands. But had it not been for the murder of the MIT professor, I don't think they would have caught this guy. Because once the MIT professor was murdered, then the Boston police got involved. And once the Boston and Brookline police got involved, in other words, real professionals, unlike these clowns in Providence, that kicked the investigation into high gear. And they were the ones who began to crack some leads and break open some evidence and aggressively push the case. And things started to break at a much quicker pace. So once Boston got involved, to be frank, in other words, a professional police force, things started to move and move quickly. And just the press conference alone is a tale of two cities. Even yesterday, the Providence police, the media was laughing at these clowns in Providence. Even the local Providence media. I'm going to play a clip later. One reporter actually starts to shout at the president of Brown, saying, "What is wrong with you? This is not a joke. People are dead. What are you guys high-fiving each other for?" While the Boston press conference, it was professional, it was detailed, they had real evidence, real information, they were serious. In other words, welcome to the NFL. This is a professional law enforcement agency, and we conduct professional press conferences. So, listen now, this is U.S. Attorney Lisa Foley. This is on the Boston side. And thank the Lord. Thank the Lord. Because A, I don't think they would have caught this guy, and B, at least we have some basic information that we never would have gotten out of Providence. Roll cut 1, Mike.
This is what we learned during this multi-jurisdictional investigation. Neves Valente studied at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island on an F1 visa around 2000 to 2021. He eventually obtained legal permanent resident status. Previously, he attended the same academic program as the MIT professor Nuno Loureiro in Portugal between 1995 and 2000.
So it looks like they knew each other, or had known each other, or were in the same program back in the old country in Portugal over 25 years ago. Now, listen, they give you details now on how the crime happened and how he planned it. Roll cut 1A, Mike.
Although Neves Valente appeared to reside in Florida, between November 26th and November 30th of this year, he rented a hotel room in Boston. On December 1st, he rented a gray Nissan Sentra with Florida plates from a car rental agency in Boston. That same day, he drove to the vicinity of Brown University, where his car was observed intermittently between December 1st and December 12th.
Then, and this is the key, that's when he then led up to December 13th, Saturday, and then went on to go to Massachusetts and murder the MIT professor in Brookline. Roll cut 1B, Mike.
On December 13th, Neves Valente entered an auditorium on Brown University's campus during a study session and began shooting at students, killing Ella Cook and Mohammed Aziz Umarzokov, and injuring 9 others. Between December 13th and December 14th, Neves Valente returned to Massachusetts. On December 15th, he murdered MIT professor Nuno Loureiro at Loureiro's home in Brookline, Massachusetts.
He then changes plates again, this time to Maine license plates. And anyway, and he tries to make a run for it by going to the storage facility. Roll cut 1C, Mike.
At some point while he was in Massachusetts, he switched the plates on the Nissan Sentra to an unregistered plate out of Maine. Immediately following Professor Loureiro's murder, Neves Valente drove to a storage facility in Salem, New Hampshire, where he had rented a storage unit in November of this year.
Now, he then apparently on that day, after he murders the MIT professor, changes the plates, goes up to that storage facility in Salem, New Hampshire, that's where he apparently kills himself. That's where he offs himself. So he's been lying in that storage facility, apparently dead for days. Okay? Now, this, you just heard Leah Foley. Okay? Whatever you think about it, it was clear, coherent, concise. There was details. There was information. It was serious. It's competent. It's completely competent. Okay. This was yesterday. This is the clown Oscar Perez, the DEI hire Providence police chief. Listen to this. Roll cut 100, Mike.
He was a Brown student. He was a Portuguese national. And his last known address was in Miami, Florida. And I will tell you that he took his own life tonight.
I'm sorry, either you laugh or you cry. No, he took his life 4 days ago. Not tonight. 4 days ago. And that's it. And it was error after error. It was mistake after mistake. Basic facts omitted. Basic facts he doesn't know. Basic facts he's completely misstating. And they're just shaking their head. Everyone's just shaking their head. The reporters are like, where did you find this guy? Well, people like him running your police department, 2 students dead, MIT professor dead. Hey, to Brown in Providence, congratulations. We're woke. We're really woke. Look how diverse we are. Yep. Oh, yeah. I can see. You guys run a first-rate operation down there. 617-266-6868. Lisa in Walpole. Thanks for holding, Lisa, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Good morning. I just want to say that this is just a heartbreaking story. My son went to Brown. I'm very familiar with the area. He took, 5 classes in that building. One of them was the economics class that was going on at the time. And I'm very familiar with the campus and everything about Brown, including the administration. First of all, the story is so bizarre that I can't even believe that this guy even got away with this. He was around Brown for 2 weeks before anybody noticed him. Apparently a homeless ex-Brown student that they let live in the building, okay? He's a brilliant person, but they let him notice this guy, notice the car, and that's how the investigation started. So you got this homeless Brown student who recognizes the car, goes to the police and says, apparently that was the other person of interest in the picture. And he's cooperating with them. So that's bizarre right there. You're letting a homeless person live in one of the buildings? All right, that's not safe. Second of all, the man came in on a green card in 2001. Then he applied for permanent residency, whatever that means, 2017, and it was accepted. So he was here, quote, legally. The third thing, Brown police officers are a joke. However, they are armed. And the campus is tiny. So I can run from one side of the campus to the other if, anybody calls me and needs me over there. They were there in seconds. Why they did not rush in the building, or at least surround the building so nobody could get out, or start blocking off all the streets so, he can't walk away. He was on foot. How can you not catch this guy? Third, Christina Paxson needs to be fired. She was answering incorrectly several times. The provost of Brown earlier this week said there are no cameras. Yes, Brown has 1,200 cameras or 800 cameras. However, that building is old. There are 2 parts of the building, a new part and an old part. The old part has no cameras. That classroom has no cameras. She when asked last night, are you going to do anything different? She's like, well, we have a lot of cameras at Brown. And, they worked. They worked. And we feel like we did a good job. You did. 9 kids were shot. 2 are dead. 1 is in the hospital, and another man in Boston is dead. And you're saying that you did the right thing. Now, I know they're all going to get sued, and they can't really say they can't admit guilt, but they're going to get sued by all those students that were shot. They're going to get sued by the MIT family. And I'm going to pull my kid out of Brown, and I'm not sending them there until they do something drastically different about their security. For example, somebody on Fox News said there's software that they could buy. A lot of these Ivy League schools are in dense urban areas, so there's not a defined campus. Well, you can define that campus, technologically or digitally, whereby there's software that would have noticed that car being there for weeks, and it would have tripped something in the system. But Brown's too cheap to buy that. For example, Yale is right in the middle of New Haven. Terrible area. But it's safe. Safe, well, I don't know if you want to call it safe. But these are things that parents are now going to be looking at. Christina Paxson said, nope, no changes need here. Everything worked the way it should be. The reporters called her on it, and she looked like she was a laughing stock last night. Same thing.
She ran from the podium. I mean, Lisa, by the way, you're on fire. You're really on point. But and I promise I'll let you finish. She literally, I've never seen this before. She confronts, a reporter confronts her. She doesn't know what to say. She's claiming everything was a success. The reporters, and they're all hacks. I mean, you have to understand, these are hacks. And even the hacks are rebelling. And the hacks are like, how could you say it was a success? Look at the body count. Are you normal, lady? She runs away from the podium. The reporter says, can you come back on the podium and answer my question? She gives this ridiculous answer, and then she basically almost runs out of the room. I've never seen anything like this. And Lisa, just to piggyback off of one of your points, they're trying to make the excuse, it's not going to fly, that engineering building, it's just so old. I mean, it's just so old. Okay. Yeah, that's why we couldn't have cameras in certain sections of the building. But Christina Paxson's building, the president's building, is even older. You can look it up. It's older than the engineering building. But notice, she's got cameras up the wazoo. Every nook and cranny. I mean, sorry, every corner. Yeah, every nook and cranny has got cameras. And she's got phenomenal security. And by the way, she never deactivates for her. No. Her cameras are working. They're never turned off. Protest or no protest. So, Lisa, they're going to get sued. They deserve to get sued. I'll be brutally honest with you. It's up to you. You're a mom. You know what's best for your child. I'm almost feeling out of line here saying this, but if this was my child, I'd pull him out of Brown. This thing could happen again. With that leadership, you're putting your child's life in danger. With the Keystone Cops, with the Three Stooges that run that place, you're playing Russian roulette with the life of your child. Lisa, final word to you.
If I had a child in that school, I'd pull them. And my son went there 10 years ago. But if he were there now, I'd totally pull him out. I've dealt with that administration. And unless you are the squeaky wheel with fighting for your children there who are not DEI, under the DEI umbrella, you're in trouble. Because they will tell you, well, we don't really care about you. You're white and male, so sorry. But their facilities, some of them are new, some of them are nice, but my son's wasn't. And it was a disgrace that they're charging you all this money and they expect people to live like paupers with disgusting carpets. I ended up telling the dean of students that you fill in any word for, well, they said to me, well, football players, they're animals. They're going to only mess it up anyway. So why should we clean it? I said, okay, you fill in any minority in that sentence that you just said, and you tell me if that sounds okay.
Good for you.
2 weeks later, there was new carpeting in the dorm.
Good for you. Lisa, outstanding call. Thank you very much for that call. No, this is what DEI does. It destroys. This is what you're seeing. And notice the arrogance. $70,000 to $100,000 a year tuition. Okay, just very quickly. A lot of you are making the point, and I think you are not 100, but 1,000% correct. Jeff, a homeless man did more to catch the shooter than the Providence police. A homeless man, forgive me, but either you laugh or you cry. A homeless man did a better job of police work than the Providence freaking police. But you can't make this up. I'm telling you, you cannot make it up. By the way, there was a $50,000 reward the FBI put out. I really hope this homeless guy gets the $50,000. I mean, you want to talk about deserving that $50K. So I hope they're not going to be cheap on that as well. You know, give this homeless guy the $50,000. Without him, you wouldn't have caught the shooter. Now, let me just ask all of you this, and maybe I'm missing something. Maybe a psychiatrist or a psychologist or whoever can call into the show or anybody that knows about this. Why would a mass murderer, and that's what he is, he's a mass murderer, a mass shooter, a terrorist, whatever you want to call him. You shoot up Brown, you kill 2, you wound 9. Okay. Then, It's all meticulously planned. The car was parked there for, 2 weeks, 12 days? He's casing the neighborhood. He's there for 12 days, walking around on campus, around campus. He then, rents this storage unit. He then goes to Brookline and then again methodically kills the MIT professor. He's changing plates so he's not going to get caught. I mean, this is a very sophisticated, well-planned, shooting, right? I mean, 2 acts of terror. But then you're going to go to a storage unit up in Salem, New Hampshire, on the day you kill the MIT professor, and then essentially blow your brains out in a storage facility. And that's it. Like, in other words, you kill yourself, and had they not found him or tracked him down, you mean the body is just going to be there for, I don't know, a year or whatever long the lease was? Or what I'm saying is, does this sound normal to you? Terrorists maybe want to die, but they want to go down in a blaze of glory. Whatever, a shootout with police, leave a manifesto, something. Or they want to get caught so they can, tell the world what they did or whatever. But you commit these atrocities, and then you just go to a storage facility and shoot yourself there in the dark? And maybe your body's never going to be found? Does this make sense? I'm scratching my head. I'm like, has this ever happened before? I'm not talking husband, wife, whatever, murder, suicide. I get it. You kill someone very dear to you, and then you're like, oh, I don't want to live with myself, and you kill yourself. I'm talking terrorist attack, and nobody would know you did it because you didn't leave behind a manifesto or anything. So you're going to, potentially be, if they don't find the body in the storage unit, you're anonymous. You quote unquote got away with it. And then you go boom. And you're just going to die in a storage unit? In the dark? I don't know. It doesn't add up. Am I missing something? 617-266-6868. Dolly in Salem. Thanks for holding, Dolly, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Dolly?
Very good. I was calling because it honestly doesn't make sense. So I live right near that storage facility, and I started hearing helicopters last night flying over the house. And, at first you just kind of hear them. They're out there. And then, you start hearing them more and more and more. And, next thing you know, I'm looking out, and there's 4 helicopters flying over the top of my house. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And at the same time that this is happening, one of my coworkers who also lives in Salem, she texted me, and she had said that she has a friend that's a firefighter in Salem, and said stay away from the Tuscan Village because they were saying the Brown University guy ended up over there. So I'm not really sure, you know what I mean, that, a firefighter from the town of Salem, I'm sure he's on the scanners or whatever, say that he's at the Tuscan Village, and yet, the Tuscan Village is all the way, you know what I mean, down 28 from where where the storage facility is. So, I'm not sure if that makes sense to me, at all. And these helicopters that were flying around, I'm like, I don't know what they were. I'm like, were they looking for him? Because they were out there. They were flying all over the place. And I'm like, were they news reporters? Were they looking for him? I know there's a rail trail that goes from right where the storage facility is, that goes right down to the Tuscan Village. So I don't know. I don't know that I believe what they're saying.
Dolly, you're putting your finger on something very important. I'm up against a break. Can you just hang on? I want to come right back to you and take so many more of your calls. 617-266-6868. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to go right back to Dolly in Salem, but just before I do, the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Was the incompetence of the Brown University and Providence authorities responsible for the murder of the MIT professor in Brookline? Let me repeat the question. Now remember, the cameras were not working. Now we're finding out many of the cameras were deliberately disabled, which is disgusting. The police refused to rush into the building after shots were fired and students were on the ground bleeding, yelling, shouting, screaming, begging for help. And this, of course, allowed the shooter, Neves Valenti, to escape. And he eventually went to Brookline, where he then murdered the MIT professor. Was the incompetence of the Brown University and Providence authorities responsible for the murder of the MIT professor in Brookline? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn is in national ER. You can also vote via X, and boy, was I active on X last night. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn is in national ER. Does the Providence police have blood on their hands? I say yes. What say you? Let's go right back to Dolly in Salem. She said she heard helicopters all night last night. There were 4 or 5 of them in the air. She lives right near that storage facility where the shooter ended up being found dead, apparently, due to self-inflicted gunshot wounds. Sally, I want to ask you this, because you're really touching on it, how the whole story, the narrative, nothing seems to add up and make sense. And I agree with you. Why would a shooter go to that facility and shoot himself there? It makes no sense. And to answer your earlier questions about why there were so many police and helicopters in the sky, the initial reports were that he went into the storage unit, but that he hadn't come out. So the police thought, well, maybe he's barricaded himself in there like it's a hiding area. He's got food, he's got water, he's going to stay there for a week or two or whatever, and then eventually try to make an escape. So that's why they came in heavy, thinking, well, no, he's going to be, he's going to be armed to the teeth, and there could be a shootout with him. When they charged in, eventually, they found him apparently dead and had been dead for days. So does this have you ever heard of this? Where a man commits not one but 2 terrorist atrocities and then goes out to a storage facility, closes the door all alone, and then kills himself, where potentially he may never be found? I mean, Dolly, I've never heard of anything like this, but that's me. What say you?
It doesn't make sense. And again, the first thing that stands out to me is my coworker texting me that he was at the Tuscan Village. If you go up 28 in Salem, where the storage facility is the southern part of Salem, and it's right on the Methuen line, and then you can go to North Salem go north. Tuscan Village is right, in the middle of Salem. So I don't understand why they would say he was at the Tuscan Village, but then, then it's now the storage facility. It doesn't make sense to me. And like I said in the beginning, and I don't know if they were just news, if they were news helicopters. I don't know what they were, but I mean, they started at one part and then then it seemed like they moved to where I live, and then we're hovering. I mean, I had a helicopter directly just hovering above my house. It was kind of annoying. After a while, I was like, oh, can they just be done with this already? Because these helicopters are really kind of annoying and loud. But yeah, it doesn't make sense.
I'm with you. Dolly, look, none of this adds up. None of this adds up. Look, my first initial reaction, again, it's still just an initial reaction, when that MIT professor was murdered, stories broke everywhere. I mean, these are wire stories, not, on these fringe websites. The Israeli media, Israel had sent some of their top investigators into Brookline, that they thought this was part of an Iranian hit squad. They were seriously looking into this. So when they said they found him dead in the storage facility, right away I thought, well, yeah, the Iranians bumped him off. I mean, that was my first, if you want my honest reaction. I was like, okay, he committed this atrocity at Brown, maybe as a cover. In other words, you got this big terrorist atrocity taking place in Brown. That's going to divert and distract a lot of attention. You murder the MIT professor, which was a clean hit. It was 2 shots or 3 shots and he was dead. So people are more focused on Brown than on MIT, which was maybe the real target. And now he's a loose end and they just dispose of him. That's what I thought initially. Now I'm asking myself, he's obviously a convenient patsy. Now, the other thing is, again, not to overthink it, but he's a resident of Miami, Florida. He's been living in Florida now for years. Do the shooting in Brown, do the shooting at, in Brookline, kill the MIT professor. Why not just go in your car and drive all the way to Florida? Or, okay, it was a rent-a-car. Then just rent the car. Apparently it was one of these rental cars that he had. So, fine. Just take the car, go to Florida, and you can drop it off at, the rental agency. So, I don't know. It just, nothing about this. And then again, we know what they're covering up on one level. It's very clear. They're covering up the colossal, reckless, negligent incompetence of the president of Brown. And remember, Brown runs Providence. Brown runs Providence, and really Brown runs Rhode Island. So they have to cover up for Brown. So they're covering up for the president of Brown. There's no question now. They're covering up about the cameras. They're covering up how many of them didn't work. They're covering up how many of them were deliberately now disabled. Now they're covering up also the police, how they refused to rush in. I mean, they've got lawsuit now upon lawsuit upon lawsuit upon lawsuit. And they've got a PR disaster. But I keep returning to a central fact of the shooting. Multiple witnesses, and this has been widely reported, not one, not two, many of them said he shouted out Allahu Akbar. So are they also covering up the fact that this was an immigrant who initially came here on the diversity visa lottery program, who was clearly not vetted, there's no question, and was potentially or maybe a Muslim from Portugal? Notice, why is the media not asking the obvious question? There are Muslims in Portugal. In fact, there's more and more of them, like in every Western European country. France is overrun with Muslims now. So, was he a Muslim? That's a legitimate question. And why did so many people say he shouted out Allahu Akbar? If this happens to be a Portuguese guy who was bitter at Brown over something that happened 25 years ago, and who knew the MIT professor 25 years ago, and I don't know, was jealous or envious or whatever motive you can concoct. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470. This is from 603, and I think makes an absolutely fascinating point. About now the shocking revelations that the Providence police and the campus police were there at the building within minutes of the shooting. People were still on the ground, students bleeding, screaming, yelling, yet they refused to go in. Not only did they refuse to go in, but they were talking about where to park the car. One guy said he needed a day off. Were they even in the right building? I mean, it was an absolute disaster. It was a clown show. And that this clearly allowed the shooter to escape. That there's no question now. And so this is what 603 is reacting to. Jeff, this is a disturbing trend I've noticed among different law enforcement agencies over the past several years. This is not the first time we've had an active school shooting where law enforcement stood around outside and refused to rush in. One of the best known instances was the Parkland shooting. Uvalde was another, by the way. It's a worrisome thing when the very officers who are paid to put their lives on the line in the interest of public safety refuse to do their duty. I agree. And that's why I want that DEI hire campus police chief fired. I want every cop who was at that scene and refused to go in fired. And I want that joke of a police chief in Providence fired. And the president of Brown fired. They played Russian roulette with people's lives. 2 students are now dead, and an MIT professor is dead. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Eddie in Charleston. Thanks for holding, Eddie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and your family.
Merry Christmas. All the best to you and your family, Eddie.
2 things I'd like to say. One, I believe it was a sleeping cell terror activity, because what better place in a storage unit where you can congregate, hide weapons, explosives. People gather there, a few buddies go in, they're moving boxes, they're moving furniture. That's what it appears. But there's weapons there. And I believe that he was knocked off by people that were there. It was a meeting place there. And that's what I believe. And they should check the tapes going back for when he first rented that facility to who went to that storage unit and see what they were doing there. You'll find a lot of answers there. That's what I have to say about that. On the other hand, I want to give a great applause to that homeless person. That homeless person, I hope he does get the $50,000. In fact, he should get $100,000. And on top of it, they should give him one of the jobs, be the president of Brown University, a police chief, because he has more brains than all of them standing up there at the podium. Okay? And why didn't they have this person that broke the case, the homeless person, there congratulating them? I want to put, as you say, another log on the fire. If it was an illegal immigrant, would they showcase him in front of the public? You bet your booty they'd showcase and say, "Oh, he's an illegal immigrant, and you're throwing him out of the country." But no, this poor slob must be a regular American homeless person, and then they push him aside and they take the credit for them. It's so disgusting, and they should all be fired, and that homeless person should get the money and get a position that one of those up there are standing in front of the cameras are taken. And that's all I have to say.
Eddie, love the call. Love it. Merry Christmas. All the best to you and your family, Eddie. The hero is the homeless person. Without the homeless person, they wouldn't have cracked the case. So I want you to think about this. An $8 billion freaking endowment. You're charging students $90, $100K a year just in tuition. And none of your cameras were able to do a thing. None of them. And whatever camera use you did, the grainy surveillance videos they put out, that was from doorbell cameras on the streets from residents who live near Brown. And it took a homeless guy who just said, no, what's this car doing here? It's been parked here for like 10 days? You mean the Providence police, as you're doing your patrol, you don't notice? What's this car with foreign plates? Not foreign plates, but out-of-state plates? Out-of-state plates, and it's just sitting there day after day after day after day after day? Like nobody wants to look into this? No, I guess not. Not the Keystone Cops. And the reason why they didn't have that homeless person? Because they were there to congratulate themselves. That, to me, was what was so disgusting about yesterday. The backslapping, the back patting, the self-congratulation, ha ha, you're great. No, you're great. No, you're great. And you got idiot moonbats, I swear to you, who are emailing me, these lunatics. You should acknowledge they did a great job. What? That's fine police work. This police chief. How dare you call him DEI? Well, actually, Providence calls him a DEI hire. That's what they said when they hired him. He was hired in the name of diversity, equity, inclusion. Providence said it, not me. Number one. Number two, stunning colossal incompetence. He doesn't know if there's inside cameras, outside cameras, which cameras were tracking this shooter. Yesterday, he took his life last night. What? No, he took his life 3-4 days ago. What are you talking about? You don't even know the basic facts of the case. Honestly, God help us. Really, God help us. Tom in Westford. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Great show as always, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you, Tom. All the best to you and your family.
One thing I'm really puzzled with, I went online looking and everything. They said they found guns with him. Were the guns the ones that looked like could have been used in both instances? The bullets, the shooting of the guy and the shooting of the students, do the bullets match up the same casing? I mean, and then the other thing, too, he mentioned something about that they turn off cameras so that because they turned off the cameras for the protests, they couldn't see him. There's just so many holes that's going on. It's like those are key problems that they haven't said any place on the Internet. Like you said, it's really, really, really strange.
Well, nobody believes the official narrative. Nobody. I mean, unless you're a diehard moonbat, like a real, Bill and Sudbury type. I mean, unless you're one of those where, they spoon feed you and okay. I mean, whatever you think of the shooter, the motive of the shooter, for example, Sandy, her theory is, and it's a very plausible theory, obviously, and it is a theory because it's speculation, because we don't have much evidence, but, that this is just a very disgruntled man, psychologically not well in the head, whose career went on a downward spiral, so he blamed his university, and he took physics classes at that engineering building, and went there and lashed out at the building. And then probably was either jealous of the MIT professor, or since they knew each other going back 25 years, at that institute they all graduated from, the two of them, maybe asked him for letters of reference or recommendations. And the MIT professor, again, I'm just spitballing, said, no, like, he's crazy, you're not right in the head, I'm not going to give you a reference. And so this man who's professionally very frustrated just said, I'm done. I'm going to attack my old university. I'm going to attack this MIT professor who we both went to the same program. He's now elite, one of the leading nuclear scientists and researchers in the world. I'm this guy living hand to mouth in Florida, and then just take his own life, up at that storage unit. Maybe, whatever you think about the theory of who this shooter was, what is crystal clear is that the cameras should have been working. The cameras should have been state of the art. The cameras should have had AI facial recognition like you have at every other college, university, never mind elite college, university. And so you have such sheer woke incompetence at Brown that they allowed this shooter to slip through their hands. And that led, at a minimum, to the death of that MIT professor. There's no question. That there's no question. And maybe we could have had no deaths if the police reaction time was better, if they actually had cameras in real time. Oh, there's a shooting. Go, go, go. If I'm the victims' families, the families of the victims, you take Christina Paxson to court, you sue her, you sue the police chief, you sue the university, you take them for everything they're worth. Because to me, what they did was unforgivable. Unforgivable. And her performance yesterday, even liberals aren't defending that. Even the local hack media is saying she's got to go. That was one of the most disgraceful, pathetic performances I've ever seen from anybody. And she's paid $3.2 million a year. By the way, another DEI hire. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay. She said the system worked. You think the system worked? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. On what planet do you think the system worked? Thank you for that call, Tom. I really appreciate it. Okay. 8-ish, you know what that means, Friday, and it's the last one of the year for the Kuhner Report. Kuhner's call log, take it away. Caller of the week, Mike.
It's time for Kuhner's call log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Mary.
I'm so angry right now because many other Republicans are sitting there and they're saying all of this should be fixed. He's been in office 11 months. I mean, give me a break. What are they expecting? He needs to lay the groundwork to get all of this charging again. That's what he's doing. And we as Republicans do exactly what our Congress and the Senate do. We spit on each other all the time. All I want is for Republicans to have a little bit of trust in him and give him the opportunity to fix this. It took Joe Biden 4 years to put our country in the situation that it's in right now. Give this man at least a year and a half to lay the groundwork. That's all I'm asking to do. Give this man a little bit of a break. Is he abrasive? Absolutely. But I think it's his abrasiveness that has got us into the situation where we're getting this country back on track.
Be here every weekday on the Kuhner Report between 6 and 10 a.m. And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. Best audience in the business. Period. Full stop. Okay, I'm going to continue to take calls. I promise. 617-266-6868 is the number. All right, you want to have a couple of laughs? Here it is. This is the president of Brown. Remember, Mrs. $3.2 million a year. Christina Paxson. And I got to say, even the local hack media, okay, and they're all liberals, they're all Democrats, but her incompetence is so egregious, so obvious, so conspicuous, so indefensible that they just let her have it yesterday. You can tell they just, no, stop BSing us. And it's obvious. Brown is now covering its rear end. There's a cover-up going on. They were negligent. They were irresponsible. The cameras, for whatever reason, were not working. And now we've got dead people and dead bodies everywhere. So she's responding to a question about the lack of video cameras in that engineering building where the massacre took place. And they're saying, don't you, an $8 billion endowment, $100,000 a year in tuition, don't you think you should have A, cameras, and B, sophisticated modern cameras that work and that you keep turned on? Listen to her unbelievable response. And by the way, the arrogance on her face, the hubris on her face, the elitism, she was cold, condescending, patronizing. She was so off-putting. Roll cut 12, Mike.
Is the video evidence in this case, from my perspective, I'm not a law enforcement agent, has been incredibly helpful. The moving of the person around the neighborhood, those video images, they help crack this case. So I think video was important. And as the Attorney General explained at a recent press conference, this individual was not spending his time on the Brown campus. He came into a building on the edge of the campus. He left. He was in the neighborhoods. The investigation focused on the neighborhoods. The video was there. And that was really, really instrumental in cracking the case. But you can ask them.
Now, she starts to leave. She's going to leave the podium. Like that. She wants to get out of there as quickly as she can. So now listen to what she's saying. She's saying, no, the fact that our cameras weren't working, the fact that we didn't have cameras in parts of the building, the fact that we had turned it off, what are you complaining about? There were neighborhood cameras. That's what the police used. And what's the problem? Either you laugh or you cry. But the shooting was on campus. Well, it was the edge of campus. It's campus. And the building wouldn't have adequate videos and adequate security. No, it all worked. What's the problem? Everything worked. So, this NBC reporter, by the way, known liberal, known hack, says, no, can you stay at the podium? Come back. And he says, the videos that helped so-called crack the case were from the neighborhood. They were not from Brown University. Why can't you guys just say, we messed up? We messed up. How come you can't just say that? Why can't you say the sky is blue? Roll cut 12A. Mike.
And this is my follow-up, Madam President, if you'd say at the podium. Yes, video played a big role in this case. The neighbor's video, the rental car video, but not the video from the building that he walked in freely both before when he got in a confrontation and when he came back in and decided to kill people. You didn't have cameras in that building. Just say it so we can get this over. And my next question is, will you put cameras in that building?
Yeah.
Will we walk cameras in that building?
Yeah, I think we need to look back. We'll look at everything that is done, but I do not think a lack of cameras in that building it had anything to do with what happened there. And we will go forward. Thank you.
Chris. That's unbelievable. Fire on the spot. I swear to God, on the spot, fire this woman's ass. You're fired. You're fired. Lady, you're fired. Out. I gotta pack my bags. We're gonna pack your bags. Get the hell out. I mean, this is the lack of cameras in the building had nothing to do with what happened? Whoa. I know you're a moonbat, but my God, can you be that humanly stupid? If there was a camera at the entrance, he would have been spotted coming in. If there were cameras in the hallway, you could have spotted him. If there were cameras in the classroom, you could have identified him. At a bare minimum, it would have sent the alert system immediately. Immediately. Especially if the cameras were wired to the police station, as they should be. So the police could have come on the scene immediately. Lives could have been saved. Number one. Number two, we would have known everything we needed to know about him. Maybe he wouldn't have slipped away. They would have caught him. The MIT professor would be alive today. This is a success? You're telling me now that there was adequate surveillance and security footage and security cameras and protection? 3 people are dead, 9 are wounded? Fire her ass on the spot. 617-266-6868 is the number. Ed in Marblehead. Thanks for holding, Ed, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. All the best to you and your family, Ed.
Thank you. I like your idea that the Brown shooting may have just been a diversion or distraction from the real target, the MIT nuclear fusion energy scientist. This becomes a real national security issue, and the Latin words cui bono, or in other words, who benefits, comes to mind. You know, everyone has focusing on this storage facility where this guy allegedly killed himself. Why are we so sure that he killed himself? What if he was going there with expectations of receiving a payment from some handlers of one kind or another who contracted with him to carry out this assassination?
Ed, I mean, I don't want to spin my wheels, but I want to, just go back. Look, the Jerusalem Post had a big story on this, the Israeli media, but even the Associated Press, Yahoo News, Reuters. I mean, these are wire services, right? So I'm not talking about, Alex Jones or, where you say, well, they're, quite conspiratorial. No, I mean, the Israeli government openly said that this MIT professor was a very key player in not just America's, but in the West's nuclear program, their fusion program, and that they were convinced that the Iranians had performed a hit on him. And so they were helping Boston and Brookline PD with the investigation. In other words, they go, you don't realize this was a very, this guy ran a very a massive lab, 250 people that worked under him. They were doing a lot of top secret, very sophisticated research with serious national security implications. And they said, no, the Iranians wanted to retaliate because we, along with the Israelis, obviously decimated not just their nuclear program, but their top nuclear scientists. And so the Israelis were saying, look, we've got intelligence showing that they wanted to hit us back and taking out this MIT professor. In other words, you're going to take out our top brains, our top nuclear people. We're going to take out your top nuclear people. Now, and again, I go back, and this is an indisputable fact. And this is now being deliberately buried with this storage facility, and they found him dead, and all of this, is that student after student after student on the record, said when the gunman came in, he shouted out, before first bullet was fired, he shouted out, Allahu Akbar. Now, look, I'm open to many things. That's why I keep saying, notice, they keep asking that DEI police chief, okay, that Oscar Perez, what did the guy yell out? And he's always, it's part of the investigation. It's all part of the investigation. Okay, well, the investigation is now over. So what did he say? And they won't tell us, exactly what he said, because that's what he said. Now, is there something in Portuguese? No, I'm serious. Is there something in Portuguese that you yell out? I don't know. I hate you. I want to, death to all of you. I don't know. That would sound similar to Allahu Akbar? And that students who aren't, fluent in either Arabic or Portuguese could say, oh, okay, it sounds to me like it was Allahu Akbar, but it wasn't. But they're not saying any of that. So it smells to me like it's a cover-up. It's an obvious cover-up. And now he's dead. They found him dead in that storage facility. No one is going to ask anymore about Allahu Akbar. No one is going to ask about what he yelled and shouted. No one is going to ask, well, why did he kill the MIT professor? And notice, this is another thing. All these idiots that are congratulating themselves, the police and the Providence authorities, but what was the motive? It's all speculation. What was the motive? Why would this guy, even if you're angry at Brown and you're unhappy with your career, so you go to a school 25 years later and you gun down strangers as you shout out Allahu Akbar? And then you go to kill an MIT professor? And then what? You just go to a storage facility and eat a gun? What? This doesn't make sense. What's the motive? Really, what's the motive? Well, he was miserable. Well, okay, but how do you know that? Well, professional jealousy, professional envy. How do you know that? Did you have a manifesto? No. Did he say anything to anybody? No. Notice, it's done. They're congratulating themselves. It's done. We caught him. It's over. And let's enjoy the holidays. You can tell. Let's move on. Move on. Don't ask any more questions now. Just move on. Well, why? 617-266-6868 is the number. So like I was just saying before the break, even police, FBI are quoted, for example, in today's Wall Street Journal, saying this was very sophisticated on the part of this guy, Claudio Neves Valenti, the alleged shooter, the suspect. They now believe, by the way, that the two shootings were linked, that he did both. He did the Brown and he did the MIT professor killing. And so they're saying, you don't understand. He used a phone. We couldn't track an untrackable phone. Apparently he did something to the car that disabled any ability to track it. They said, we were very impressed how he scoped and planned out the massacre at Brown, the execution of the MIT professor, and it was hard to be able to track him. It was just hard. They said, it was well thought out. It was a very sophisticated plan. It used good technology. In other words, you want my honest opinion? I don't think he acted alone. I don't believe it. Maybe he did. I'm just giving you my answer from the gut. So, what was his motive? They haven't told us. And now it looks like they won't tell us. Did he have help? Did he act alone? They're not telling us. So there are so many questions still left unanswered. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here. Nothing is going to happen to that Brown University professor. Sorry, president, my bad. The Brown University president. Okay, Christina Paxson. She's going to keep her job. Why? Because that's how corrupt Rhode Island is. That's a Democrat hackorama state that even puts Massachusetts to shame. So she may even get a raise. She may even get a bonus. I'm not kidding. That Providence DEI police chief, this Oscar Perez, he's a hero. These moonbats up in Providence around the university, they're high-fiving the guy. Inspector Clouseau. They're like, no, he's a what a cop. He's a cop's cop. They're going to make him attorney general one day. He's getting a raise. The useless idiot mayor, he's going to get a raise. So you see, the Providence police chief, he's going to be the next attorney general. They're going to promote him. The mayor, okay, the one who looks like he's going to die any second, is Mr. Low Energy. That guy, they're going to make him the governor. You can't make this up. They're high-fiving each other, congratulating each other. You interview all these people up in, right around Brown University. These moonbats, ay, ay, ay. I'm so proud of our police chief. I'm so proud of our mayor. We got him. We got him. First of all, it was the Boston police and the FBI that got him, okay? And a homeless man. It was a homeless man along with Boston PD and the FBI that got him. That's the MIT murder is what triggered Boston Brookline police to get involved, and they were the ones who cracked everything in the case. So I don't know what they're congratulating the Three Stooges for, Inspector Clouseau. So listen now. You can't make it up. This is Inspector Clouseau, the Providence police chief, Perez, yesterday at that self-congratulatory press conference. And a reporter asks the obvious question, why did it take a civilian, i.e. the homeless person? Why was he the one that only he seemed to care? That you have this car with out-of-state plates just parked and sitting there day after day after day after day, and the police, no? You guys never noticed anything? No? Listen to his answer. Here's Clouseau. He's got a big future ahead of him in Rhode Island. Tomorrow, Attorney General. Next, after that, Governor. Roll cut 101, Mike.
Why did it take a citizen to notice a suspicious person right next to Brown University and not the police? And also, how long was the vehicle parked where it was? And was it days, hours, minutes? What are we talking
It appeared to be days as far as the evidence. Why would a civilian observe that to be suspicious? It's a great point. And I like the fact that you're mentioning that and bringing that up. That's what we should all be doing, right? And it's just personality. Some people are more interested in finding out what others are doing. In this particular case, this person decided that he wanted to, and I'm glad he did.
Yeah, he saved your bacon. He saved your rear end. That's what he did. This homeless guy. I'm glad he did. Oh, yeah, well, yeah. But I mean, it's personalities. That's all. It's just personalities. It's, some people do the job of the cops. That's how some cops, like my cops, they don't rush in. They don't shooting take place, and they talk about the parking. They talk about day off. They say where we eat after. They say we don't go in. And when you see car in area, day after day, my police say, why we going to Dunkin' Donuts? Why we bother? And then you have homeless people who do our job. Yeah, that's how it goes. It's the personalities. That's all it is. And notice his shtick. I told you this before, a couple days ago. That's a great question. Tom, that's a great question. Thank you, Tom. That's a shtick. BS. Call the reporter by their first name and say it's a great question, but never provide a concrete or coherent or suitable answer. And he's a hero now. He's a hero. They were hugging him. They were patting him on the back yesterday. The AG patted him on the back. The president of Brown said this guy's one of the top cops in the history of Rhode Island. So they're going to promote him. He's getting a raise. You can't make this up. 617-266-6868. Now, this was from a few days ago. This is a Latino reporter, I believe for Univision. Don't quote me on this. But one of the few that actually had the guts to call the mayor out, Brown University out, the attorney general, and they were thunderstruck. They had no answer. Where he says, why were you, he says taking down cameras. What he means is disabling cameras, turning cameras off. Why were you turning cameras off? Is it because when there were all these anti-ICE protests, there were illegals, illegal aliens on campus? And you didn't want their faces and their names to be identified so they could potentially be deported? And so because of this, security was so lax, this guy just waltzed in and killed 2 people and wounded 9 and then waltzed out, and there was no camera footage from anywhere on campus because you idiots turned off all of the cameras. Roll cut 13, Mike. 13, Mike. 13.
The camera in that building that Brown put off because the sanctuary city law that we have, you don't want to record illegal immigrants, and you don't want to provide the footage to the FBI or immigration authority. One camera in that building, it come out from your detectives, they are friends of mine, they're angry at this investigation that these people in Brown University put the camera off, they can identify that person. You imagine how the family want to go through? Tell the truth to the media here.
We heard from both the Brown police chief and the provost at Brown, who have shared that they have been fully cooperative and been forthcoming with all data and evidence that they have. The City of Providence's experience is the same, which is that Brown has been entirely cooperative and collaborative and fully sharing with us. We will be back here tomorrow once again.
Notice he didn't answer his question. Deliberately dodged it. And again, always the same buzzwords: cooperative, collaborative, blah, 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 blah. As the reporter rightly said, I want to give him credit. Providence is a sanctuary city. Brown University is a sanctuary campus. You guys deliberately took down the cameras, and now you can't identify him. And the guy got away. And do you know how it must feel for the victims? The families of the victims, that all of this could have been potentially prevented, or we at least could have caught him and caught him much quicker. And notice, he didn't say, no, we didn't disable Brown did not disable those cameras. No, Brown did not turn off those cameras. He didn't say that because he can't. Because the Brown University president came out and said we did. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's have a little bit of fun. I mean, it's, the whole thing is depressing. So either you laugh or you cry. So let's have a little bit of fun. Does the president of Brown University, Christina Paxson, will she keep her job in the wake of this absolute debacle? Hell, do you think she'll even get a raise? I'm just curious, what say you? The Inspector Clouseau, the Pink Panther, the Providence Police Chief, Mr. Perez, Colonel Perez, will he keep his job, and will he also get a raise? Hell, maybe the Democrats will groom him to be the next state attorney general. Yes or no? The mayor, the crazy mayor of Providence, will he keep his job? Will he get reelected? Will he now become even more popular after all of this? In other words, will anybody be held accountable? Will Brown be held accountable? Will the Providence authorities be held accountable? Will anybody be held accountable? 617-266-6868. And that poor homeless guy who broke the case for everybody. Will he get his $50,000 FBI reward? Jeff in Chelsea. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Well, Jeff, as far as this case is concerned, because I have over 25 years in the security profession, there are questions to ask. Question number one, is there the possibility that this is an insider job? In other words, you have a couple of bad apples either inside the police, the university police department, or the security staff itself that turned off the cameras ahead of time. before this happened, certain key cameras. Question number two, how many of the doors were locked or unsecured? And question number three, incident reports. Will the incident reports see the light of day? Because when an incident happens, obviously you have to write an incident report. You have to have a paper trail. My personal opinion, I think after the incident happened, the top people told the security and police staff, keep your mouth shut, and have an official spokesman speak for all of your staff. Just keep your mouth shut, sign this paperwork. If you say a word about this, we will either sue you or put you in jail. Or, in other words, bad things will happen to you. So the security staff and the police staff are keeping their mouths shut. Jeff, we're never going to know what happened with this case. It's just that simple. What do you think, Jeff?
I think, sadly, you're right. I mean, I wish, honestly, Jeff, I wish I could say you're wrong. I wish, but I can't. And you're right. Look, it's all CYA. Cover your, you know what, cover your rear end. They have to protect the president because they're going to get the president of Brown because they're going to get their pantsuit off. There's no question. They're going to sue their pants off. So they've got to protect the president of Brown. They've got to protect the campus police chief, Mr. DEI, because his people completely dropped the ball to the point that they stood outside and did nothing. People, students are on the ground, shot, bleeding, and they just, they did nothing. And you're going to see the radio transmissions are already being leaked. You got to hear it. You got to hear it. I'm telling you, you will not, you don't, I'm telling you, you don't, you're going to say, come on, Jeff, you're exaggerating for effect. One guy is on the radio complaining he needs a day off. They're talking about, I can't find parking. The other one is like, is it this building or is it that? Which building is it? And they're all saying, I'm not going in there. Well, someone's got to go in there. Well, it's not going to be me. Well, who's it going to be? Well, it's going to be you. No, it's not going to be me. It's going to be you. It's like the Three Stooges. I'm telling you, the three, but except there was 10 of them. So they're not going to talk because they're all going to lose their jobs and they could also be sued. So it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So it's all now sweep under the rug. And it was so convenient because now this guy, Neves Valenti, the shooter, was found dead, apparently rotting there for days. So the dead don't speak. And Allahu Akbar, sweep that under the rug. The real reason why the MIT professor was assassinated, could he have been tied to the Iranians? Sweep that under the rug. Everything is now just swept under the rug. That's all. Maybe they're going to have to install cameras, like real cameras that actually work, brand new state-of-the-art cameras. So the cheapskates, forgive me, the cheap skunks that run Brown with their, by the way, they have no money for security, but for DEI, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Oh, for every DEI initiative under the sun, that they've got money coming out of their ears. That there's no problem. The sky's the limit. But, actually to protect the students? No, hey, come on. No, hey. So the poor students at Brown, yeah, you may get new security cameras, and yes, the switch will go from off to on. And by the way, I don't want to go on and on. This has been such a disaster. They have a security website that is supposed to be tied to the security cameras. And normally that's supposed to be connected to the police department. They didn't connect it to the police department because, you see, they're all Black Lives Matter. They're anti-police. Police are racist. Police are bad. So it wasn't actually tied or connected to the police department. No. It was tied and connected to this website run by students and some security firm. But even then, some businesses were being linked to this website / security firm, and some of the schools, but Brown was opting out. The police chief admitted it. The Inspector Clouseau, he admitted it. You can see, and the reporter is like a jaw, like what his jaw is almost on the floor. Like why wouldn't you do that? This was like 3-4 months ago. The system was set up, and this is the police chief. So Brown, they just decided to take their time. That's all. Just decided to take their time. That's all. Move on. Next question. Harry, thank you. Great question, Harry. And next question. Move on. Thank you. It's all part of the investigation. I wouldn't live in Providence. I wouldn't live near Brown University. I wouldn't send my kid to Brown University. And the sad thing is, we're more upset about it. The rest of the country is more upset about it than the Moonbats who live right around that area around Brown. The residents, and you want to laugh? If you after the show or whatever, this weekend, the holidays, whatever, just go on YouTube or wherever you go and just say interview with residents at near Brown University. Like local media interview with residents at Brown. I thought our Moonbats are stupid. I want to take back everything I've ever said about Bill in Sudbury. Everything I've ever said. Bill in Sudbury is a genius compared to some of these residents that live near Brown. Oh, we love our president. We love our police chief. They're doing a great job. And I think he's going to be found and he's going to be caught alive. Man, what makes you say that? He just has to be. Like, I'm telling you, that's exactly. He just has to be. Well, but why? That's just, or else it just wouldn't be fair. Ay. Does it bother you that the cameras were not working at Brown? No, because we have cameras. Because we have cameras. I'm like, but they're a multi-billion-dollar institution. They're charging $100,000 a pop per student. Like, no, hello, no. I even Bill in Sudbury, I'm telling you, even Bill would say, well, if you're going to have a camera, I think it should work. Even our Moonbats would say that. I'm telling you, I know our Moonbats, right? I mean, Jeff, am I wrong? Even our Moonbats would say, but no, I mean, if you're going to put 1,000 cameras on a campus, sorry, either you laugh or you cry. I mean, they got to work. You don't put them off, you put them on. Jeff, am I wrong?
And let me add to this, Jeff, which is the fact they did not repair the cameras doesn't surprise me either. This seems like a very high case of negligence and stupidity, like in the movie Idiocracy. What you're dealing with, Jeff, is idiocracy. I mean, but take a close look at the security staff and the police staff and see how many DEI hires are in those positions and so forth. Jeff, this is like the wolf being in the chicken coop. That's what you're dealing with here. But Normie's not going to care. Normie's going to move on. After 2 weeks, this will pass because Normie doesn't care. Though the whole state of Rhode Island is left wing, like you said, Jeff. Hack-a-rama. So this is what happens in a hack-a-rama state. I mean, incident reports. I'll wrap it up with this: incident reports, medical ones. You have to have an incident report of this. If they release that, then I know they're for real. If they don't release that, or at least share excerpts of it, forget about it. We're not going to know a thing about this. They'll tell us whatever we think we want to hear, and this whole thing will be swept under the rug. Thank you for having me on, Jeff, and have a great weekend.
Have a Merry Christmas. All the best to you and your family, Jeff. No, Sandy and I, before the show, pre-show, we have a meeting, we talk, and we're just going through some of the insane stuff that the police chief said, that the president of Brown said, the radio transmission among the police. And I said to her, this is like a bad movie. Like, a really bad comedy. Like, everybody is so incompetent, except it's real life. Like, I mean, it's just, you're like, no, nobody can be that stupid. And here, I'll play it again. Okay? This is Brown University Presidente, the president. She makes $3.2 million a year. Forget bonuses and just straight salary. $3.2 million. A left-wing Democrat hack reporter from NBC 10 thinks her answer is so outrageous and frankly so stupid that he says, please come back to the podium. Don't talk to me that the videos caught the guy. It was videos from people's homes in the neighborhood, not the videos in the building or on Brown where the massacre took place. And you just said there weren't videos either in the building or they deactivated. Like, you think this is a success? Listen to her unbelievable answer. Roll cut 12A, Mike.
And this is my follow-up, Madam President, if you'd say at the podium. Yes, video played a big role in this case. The neighbor's video, the rental car video, but not the video from the building that he walked in freely both before when he got in a confrontation and when he came back in and decided to kill people. You didn't have cameras in that building. Just say it so we can get this over. And my next question is, will you put cameras in the cameras in that building? Will there be more cameras in that building?
Yeah, I think we need to look back. We'll look at everything that is done, but I do not think a lack of cameras in that building it had anything to do with what happened there. And we will go forward. Thank you.
I mean, it's stupefying. I mean, I told you, fire her on the spot. Fire her on the spot. And notice, the guy even says, okay, will you just say you'll put cameras in the building, like going into the future? And she doesn't even say yes. I'll look into it. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe they'll do it again. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but so maybe, okay, well then, so tell the whole world we're not, okay, there are no cameras or we've disabled them. And no, we're not going to put in cameras. Oh, you mean I can go in there and shoot up the place and nobody will identify me? Yep. This is the president of Brown University. I'll do her job for $1 million. I'm telling you, I'd blow her out of the water. Forget 3.2. Just give me $1 million. And I mean, I'll give you 10, 12, 14 hours a day. I mean, I'll give you real work. Jeff, how will you do it? Okay. Let me talk. No, professional police, not Providence. Guys, let me call, say, the Boston Police Department or the New York Police Department. Hey, guys, it's the new president of Brown. Oh, hey, congratulations. Thanks. Listen, we're going to have like professional cameras, with facial recognition, the whole bit. We're going to put about 1,000, 1,200. We're going to wire this place up. What cameras do you recommend? Do you recommend a good firm or a company to wire them up? And how do you make them connect to the local police station? Oh, well, I recommend these guys. These guys are good, blah, blah, blah. These cameras are great. Let me just take notes here. You don't have a number for them, do you? Oh, you do? Okay. Okay. I call them up. Can you do this? Yes, you can. I go to 2 or 3 other companies. Really, seriously. Can you do it? Okay. Can you all give me a bid? because I have to go to the board and, this is how much it's going to cost. And so I want to go with the best company that gave us the best price. Okay, you got the bid. How quickly can you guys start? It's Christmas break. Students are not going to be here on campus. How quickly can you guys get all this set up for me? Bang. You've got 1,200 cameras, modern, state-of-the-art, in every freaking building, every nook and cranny, every classroom. That's it. Bang. Piece by piece. Campus police, fired. Okay, let me get on the phone. Hey, guys, we pay a lot here at Brown. You guys interested? Good salary, good benefits. Any police officers? Really not that much crime. You got some homeless people. I need you to kick them off campus. But not the one guy, though, that saved everybody. Him, he can stay. But everybody else, they got to go. You interested in this? Can you recommend some police officers that maybe, don't want to work in Boston or New York or Chicago or, always worry about getting shot in the head, with these soft on crime mayors? Maybe come here, work at Brown, easy money. Oh, really? You got some names? Sure. Okay, let me look into their backgrounds. $1 million. I'll take care of all your problems. This woman, ay. So are you going to put cameras into the future? Well, I don't think having a lack of cameras was a problem. Okay, but will you still, just for the hell of it, throw 4 or 5 cameras in there? What the hell? You can afford it. I don't think so. Well, we're going to look into it. 617-266-6868. I don't know what to tell you. Al in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Al, and welcome.
Jeff, happy birthday, happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I love you in a non-sexual way.
Thank you, Al. I mean, my birthday was a couple months back, but I appreciate it. Merry Christmas, my friend. All the best to you and your family. Al, what do you mean? Al, you want to run Brown?
For that kind of money?
Well, say we go $1.5 million. Will you do it? We'll do it for half her salary. We can even save some money. You'll do it for how much?
500,000.
500,000. Okay.
I'm not greedy. Well, you asked the question if the Portuguese culture or community has any words that sound like, I don't want to say it to give them credit. The only time I use Allah word is when I see a beautiful salad bar and I scream, Allah salad bar. So, no, in the Portuguese community, there is no word like that.
Right, there's nothing, right? Because I take it you speak Portuguese, correct, Al?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, yeah, that's what I figured. So there's nothing, something similar to Allahu Akbar that you could say, well, you're saying there's nothing there, correct?
Nothing there. I'm going to tell you right now, when a Portuguese individual gets into an argument or he's going to about to commit a crime or do something, he yells profanity, believe it or not. Nothing else, no warning, it's just profanity. And I'm not going to say it on the radio because I don't want to abolish your program. And that's how the Portuguese community is. Now,
Al, before I promise I'll give you all the time in the world. Is there anything of profanity in Portuguese that starts with an A or has H's? In other words, that you could say to an English-speaking person, well, that kind of sounds a little bit like Allahu Akbar. Is there anything?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, the question I have is if he lived in Miami, why isn't the FBI at his apartment or house getting his laptops and getting all of his information? Because if these people are highly educated, they got connections and laptops, emails, and they're always working on physics and other items throughout their lives. Has anybody reached out to Portugal and had his family looked into or verified that they're not being held as hostages? These are a lot of questions that have no answers right now.
Al, can you please hang on? Because I got a very important question for you. Hang on. I want to come right back to Al. He's saying the basics are not even being done. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go right back to Al in New Hampshire. Al says there is nothing in the Portuguese language that comes anywhere close to Allahu Akbar when you say something in anger or in rage, or if you're swearing or cursing or whatever it may be. Al, I want to ask you, to me, the $64,000 question. You obviously are of Portuguese descent. You know the Portuguese language. You have a sense or feel for Portuguese culture. What do you believe was the motive for this shooting? Why would somebody like him, an immigrant from Portugal on a green card, came in through the visa diversity program, but eventually got a green card, permanent residence, why would he target Brown, and then why would he target this MIT professor, kill him? I understand he was a brilliant physicist from Portugal, and apparently they went to the same program or institute 25 years ago. But do you have any insights or theories on what you believe drove him to commit these heinous atrocities? I'm just curious.
Well, let's connect the dots. All right, Iran, Israel, Portuguese physicists, one of the top leaders, right? So you have a gentleman who went to Brown, who left for whatever reason. Maybe he was discouraged. Maybe he just didn't want to do it anymore. Maybe he stayed in contact with this professor. I know in the Portuguese community, if you don't know somebody, you don't open the door. Or if you see a stranger at the door, you try to protect yourself. So maybe he's friends with the professor, and they used him as a pawn to get at the professor. Now, that classroom was an engineer room. Maybe that's, they have the background of these people, and they're like, okay, so you went here. This is the engineering room. Let's kill the top people that are presenting the class. There's so many holes that need to be answered, so many connected dots that are not being connected. And it's hard to, I could play quarterback all day from the phone and you behind the mic, but they honestly need to give us more information, because we're going into 2026, and how many illegal terrorists are in this country? We need a lot of more information, and they're not giving it to us.
Well, Al, look, let me ask you, let me just play, I agree with you 1,000%, but let me just play devil's advocate. I'm getting a lot of texts, a lot of emails from people who are telling me to calm down. I'm not kidding. Saying, well, he was caught, so what's the problem? In other words, the Claudio Neves Valenti was caught. He's dead. He's no longer a threat. What's the problem? In other words, it's all's well that ends well. What say you?
Honestly, I don't buy it. I don't buy it, period. Storage facility, you go and take your life. He was near Boston. He could have gotten on the plane and gone back to Portugal. Bye-bye. There was no cameras. There's a lot of holes in these stories. There's a lot of holes in the investigation. I think this is a quick wrap-up, make Brown look good, make the police look good, and they're not filling in the holes, and they need to fill in those holes to secure America. And I feel that we're being left out in the lurch intentionally because they're afraid of the American people saying, that's it. Return them all back to their country. We don't want them here because of their erratic behaviors, Islamic behaviors, and we don't want that here.
Bingo. I think you hit the nail right on the head. Al, you hit the nail right on the head. This is a way to cover it up, wrap it all up, as you put it. It protects Brown, it protects the police, and it takes the whole Islamic angle out. And it's all nice, neat, tidy little package. Let's move on, and we're off to Christmas. And maybe you'll get a few cameras in that building, and then story's done. Al, I'm with you all the way. Al, thank you so much for that call. I want to read an email that I got from Linda. This is what she wrote me. Jeff, the radio show is good. Well, thank you, Linda. You are ridiculous with your comments, though, about the Providence police in the Brown University investigation. The Brown shooter was caught. Calm down. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, if that was the actual shooter, that's question number one. But question number two, and let me ask this to you, Linda, and everybody in the audience. Is it acceptable that the Providence police and the Brown campus police were there outside the building, and apparently there were, 10 of them? And this is right after, seconds, whatever, minutes after the shooter shot the classroom. And you got 2 people bleeding to death, 9 others yelling, bleeding, screaming, and they refuse to go in? Like we're just supposed to act like that's no big deal? Allowing the shooter to escape? And then by allowing him to escape, I mean, I'm just stating the obvious. He then got into his car, drove to Brookline, and then murdered an innocent man, a brilliant MIT professor from Portugal. A human life was needlessly lost at a minimum. Joining us now, as she always does at this time, she is the co-founder, CEO, and president of Kelly Financial Services. And yes, that is her wonderful name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. As we look ahead to a new year, many retirees are feeling real pressure from rising healthcare costs, everything from premiums to prescriptions. And for a lot of families, that uncertainty can make retirement feel a little less secure. But here's what I want people to remember. You are not powerless. With the right planning, you can protect both your health and your financial well-being. That's why we put together our investor guide, Don't Let Healthcare Expenses Derail Your Retirement. It's a clear, easy to understand resource that helps you prepare for Medicare changes, long-term care expenses, and the rising cost of everyday health needs. As you plan for 2026, now is a great time to make your healthcare strategy stronger, more informed, and more confident. To request your complimentary copy, give us a call or email kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, I'll continue this conversation with our Kelly advisors tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or visit our website for the Radio Rewind. Jeff, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and your family and all of Kuhner Country.
Thank you, Kelly. All the best to you and everyone at Kelly Financial. To get a free copy of that guide, and I urge all of you, if you can, do get it. Call now, 888-800-1881, 888-800-1881, or you can actually email Kelly herself personally, kelly@kellyfinancial.org. That's kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Okay, my friends, a lot of you are texting the Kuhner Man saying, Jeff, you don't believe the story as well. This narrative just doesn't make sense, and I agree with you. And so my question to you is this. What do you think is really happening, and why do you think the authorities, at a minimum, are engaged in a cover-up? At a minimum. Whether they're protecting Brown, whether they're protecting the police, or is it something even more nefarious? Are they trying to protect the fact that this was an immigrant who came into this country through the visa lottery program, unvetted, and may have committed an Islamic terrorist attack, and maybe even on behalf of a foreign power? We'll see. But at a minimum, why won't they tell us what he yelled at Brown University in that classroom when he massacred those students? They refuse to tell us. The media has asked dozens and dozens of times, and they refuse to tell us what Claudio Neves Valenti said before he opened fire. 617-266-7610. 6868. Tom in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff, and Merry Christmas to you and to my country.
Thank you. All the best to you and your family, Tom.
Thank you. Sherlock Perez needs to be fired. Number one, there was about like 50, 60 people in that lecture hall, and this guy picked out, that young lady. How did he know to pick her out of the crowd with that many people in one area, unless somebody ratted her out, or somebody pointed where she was, or somebody let him know or tipped him off? And they never rounded up all those cell phones to analyze them. It seems to me would have been task number one to try to find out what really happened on the ground at that time. There may be video.
Well, Tom, I promise I'll let you finish, but just what the police addressed this yesterday. Now, this was the Boston presser. Again, you go to the Providence presser, I mean, they were all over the map. They didn't know a thing, okay? It was, again, disorganized, disjointed, unprofessional. It was a joke, okay? It was a joke. But the Boston presser, which was very professional, they believe it was random, that Ella Cook was not targeted, that she just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, like that Uzbek student who was also at the wrong place at the wrong time. So they're just saying his goal was to target the classroom. Why? They don't want to tell us, or they don't know, but that it wasn't specific against anyone who was killed. Number one. Number two, they haven't answered that another $64,000 question. Now, I know for a fact, because investigators have said this was a final exam review study session with the teaching assistant. So nowadays, students have their phones as recorders. Quickly, when I used to lecture, when I used to teach, students always recorded me. Always. Especially when it was for a final exam review session. There'd be 50, 60, 70 students in a classroom. They'd ask all kinds of questions and, things they didn't know or things they should prepare for or be ready for, whatever. And those recording devices were on. So police investigators have admitted people had their phones and it was recording. So it's very simple. I mean, this is not rocket science. Their phones were on. They were, if they're not filming, they're recording what was said. Just what was said. Just come on and play the tape. What did he yell out? And it's those students who keep saying it was Allahu Akbar. And when pressed, they're like, could it be something else? Maybe you misunderstood. They're like, we heard it as clear as you can possibly hear it. He shouted out, Allahu Akbar. Now, Tom, look, to be honest, maybe it was a diversion. Maybe the guy's mentally not right in the head. Maybe he came in there and wanted to shoot up the place out of a sense of vendetta or personal frustration that his career wasn't doing well. And he thought Brown let him down, and he went after this MIT professor because they knew each other or had gone to the same classes 25 years ago in Portugal, and asked him for recommendations, and he didn't give it to him. And so he wanted to cover his tracks for his real motive by shouting out Allahu Akbar. Okay, Allahu Akbar does not definitively say it's an Islamic terrorist attack. But why are they hiding it? It's an open secret. In fact, this is not even me saying this. It's the Brown University students. It's those that were in the lecture room that weren't hurt or wounded that are saying, but we heard them. Why won't they say that to the public? And let people decide or make of it what they will. So you see, the more they cover this up, the more I'm saying, no. See, once you start lying to me and lying to you and lying to the public, I don't believe you anymore. I don't believe you. So my fear is we're never going to get answers to our questions. And they were so eager to just bury this yesterday. We got him. It's over. What's everybody's problem? Sort of like the emails I'm getting from, I read one. Like, we caught him. What's the big deal? Move on. Well, who's going to be, why would you want to hold people accountable? Why do you want to hold the police chief or anybody or the president of Brown or the police officers? Why do you want to hold them accountable? The guy's caught and, yeah, but 3 people are dead. Well, so what? Well, it's not so what to me. Tom, final word to you.
But I apologize. I don't want to be redundant, but how did they actually track him to that storage facility? Was it his phone? Was it, how did they find him up there? I didn't really get that.
It was a homeless man who had seen him in the building before. He had noticed him before. In fact, they had a slight run-in. Like, what are you doing here? Or he sleeps there. The homeless man sleeps in that building. And they let him sleep there, by the way, which to me is shocking, but let that go. And then, so he started to track him. It was the homeless guy. And he began noticing he's got a car, the rented vehicle with the plates. So it was the homeless man. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to say it now in case I forget to say it or don't have enough time, which is what usually happens at the end of this segment to say it. This is our last show for 2025. We are going to be off next week, and we're going to be coming back after New Year's. So I want to wish all of you in Kuhner Country, from the bottom of my heart, very Merry Christmas, a happy, blessed, healthy New Year. Rest, and because we got a big year ahead of us next year. So please rest, take care of yourself, recharge your batteries. I certainly could use the break. I need some downtime to relax and refresh myself. Take a small little vacation just to relax, because honestly, I'm feeling a little tired, a little worn down. So I could use the vacation. But please enjoy your break. And again, a very Merry Christmas from me, from Mike, from Sandy, from all of us. 617-266-6868. Rachel in Reading. Thanks for holding, Rachel, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. It's good to be on the line.
Welcome, Rachel. Rachel, what do you make of all this?
There's a lot. First, I agree with your caller, Al, from New Hampshire. Secondly, I just want to bring some insight on it, because almost about 13 years ago, I went to UMass Dartmouth. And UMass Dartmouth is a state school. So first off, I'm just going to make the clarification. That's less money than Brown. So Brown should have more security than UMass Dartmouth did. But UMass Dartmouth is where the Boston bomber went. So I was there when all of that happened. And one of the things that shocks me that's now 13 years later is the lack of security. There should be facial recognition. There should be so much security on that campus. And as someone who went to college, you go to other colleges, you kind of know the lingo. You know that you can piggyback in if you don't have a pass to get into a room. So there should be some type of more security, especially at Brown. And when I went after the boss, Jahar, got caught, because at first I didn't know who it was, after that, one second, honey. After that, there was so many people on that campus, because it wasn't that big of a campus, that would pretend to be students. They would wear UMass Dartmouth sweatshirts, and they'd be reporters, or they'd be other people just walking around campus. And that wasn't secure. So what's going on in Brown? I think there's a lot that we don't know, but first of all, what grants does Brown have? What is in the engineering office? That I haven't heard about, because they could have some weapons of mass destruction there. They could have some grants to work on things that this gunman was after. We haven't been alerted on any of that. And you mentioned the recording. Of course, there's more information that we're never going to find out, but there's... And your person, Al, who spoke, also brought up the fact, honey, don't turn on the car. He also brought up the Portuguese. That whole area is very highly Portuguese. Dartmouth is very close to Rhode Island. It's a very high Portuguese neighborhood. So that's kind of what I wanted to share. If you have any questions, I'm open, but
No, Rachel, look, I think you put your finger on it. I think, by the way, the Portuguese is Brazilian Portuguese as opposed to European Portuguese. That's my understanding. But, and he was European Portuguese, obviously from Portugal. But no, I think, look, there's no denying this. This is, I mean, it's pretty obvious. That what really cracked the case open, it wasn't the clowns, these Keystone cops in Providence. It was when he murdered that nuclear physicist in Brookline. That's when the Boston PD got involved. That's when the Brookline PD got involved. And even the FBI admitted this. They were very aggressive. They were eager to catch him. If things moved very quickly, they got involved because then they believed that the murders were linked, that the shootings were linked. And so they started to take a look at the evidence at Brown. And so they were the ones that went aggressively after the license plate, after the rental car, keying in on that homeless person. This was all being done from the Boston PD end. Very little from the Providence Police Department end. So, you know, a lot of people are saying, had he not murdered the MIT professor, let's put it this way, had he just walked into Brown, bang, 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 shot the place up, walked out, he probably would have gotten away with it. He probably would have gotten away with it. His mistake was then he went to Brookline to get the MIT professor. Now, one of the things I want to know is he didn't shoot him at MIT. He shot him at his home. That, to me, is very revealing. Well, how did he know where he lived? Well, was he in the phone book? He'd be crazy if he, I mean, maybe he was, but you're a top-notch nuclear, scientist, a fusion scientist at a major program, at a major lab where they do top-secret research. I don't think you should be able to find the guy on a Google search or at the Yellow Pages. So there's a lot more that needs to be answered that they refuse to give us information on. And again, if you notice, Rachel, it's always take everything on blind faith. From the very people that we have caught again and again, even in this investigation, either lying to us brazenly or displaying colossal incompetence. So, Rachel, the students and the families at Brown, especially those of the victims, are going to have to make a decision. Are they going to let this slide? Are they going to deliberately turn a blind eye? Or are they going to go in there and sue the hell out of that university and the hell out of that police department?